is a response video for Tim Cain. Very recently, Tim Cain put out this video on his channel in which he was discussing logically why there are uglier characters in video games. So, to add some context for my viewers who are unfamiliar with who Tim Cain is. So, Tim Cain, he's a veteran game designer, game developer. He's most notably known for founding the Fallout series, working on Fallout 1, Fallout 2 as like a programmer and game designer. He's also worked on many other notable games such as Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, Arcanum, Outer Worlds, Pillars of Eternity, etc. So, I mean, he definitely has an extensive resume. He's worked on very well-known games, and he was in high positions for all of them. This has definitely resulted to him having growth in his YouTube channel. So he has a YouTube channel that he's been doing for 3 years, talking about video game development, talking about his experience, etc. He also answers questions on there, and this is where this topic came from. So he got asked the question, which was, I've been wondering for a long time, why do American and many European companies deliberately make player and NPC characters ugly these days? Tim Kane's answer was that he likes variety. If you want to watch the rest of his video, it's not very long, it's 8 minutes. But if you want to watch it, I'll leave the video in the description section below, and also I'll tag Tim Cain. So I don't know, maybe he'll see this response, maybe not. So I'm not trying to bash Tim Cain with this video. This is more of a response because I feel like there's some misunderstanding on Tim Cain's part as far as misunderstanding the question itself, and also misunderstanding of preference and appeal or attraction. Those are two different things, which I'll go into all of these. So first, I want to talk about the question itself, which is about why they're ugly characters in video games. This has been known on the internet as the uglification of characters in video games. And this can be split into two pillars. The first pillar is specifically about women, and the other is more about just bad design. So the first one about women, basically there's been a trend in which a lot of women in Western developed games are designed to look more masculine than they should. Like, they have bigger jaws, they're less attractive looking compared to the real life female counterpart, and in those exact same games the males look one-to-one to their real life human model counterparts. This has been going on for a while. I'll probably put some examples on the screen. One notable example is Mary Jane from Spider-Man 2. Not only does she look very different from her real life model that they based her off of, compared to Peter Parker, who, the second version of him looks very similar to the model that they used, but they also changed her drastically from the first game to the second game, with a noticeably larger jaw and just straight up just not looking as conventionally attractive as she looked before. And I'm going to put these other examples on the screen, such as the Joanna Dark's redesign in the canceled Perfect Dark game, and this hero character from the Fable game that hasn't come out yet, but they did try to redesign her to look a little bit more attractive. That's one pillar of the whole uglification of characters in video games. The other pillar is more about just ugly characters in general, or just bland characters. The most notable example that we can look at is Concord. This is the most famous example because so the whole point of the character roster for games like fighting games and hero shooters is to have a bunch of really cool looking characters. characters that you want to play as, and you should at least have maybe a handful of them that look like they are the main character. You can look at just about any successful fighting game and hero shooters such as Overwatch, and you can see which ones are the ones who look like they should be on the cover of the box because they look like the main character. They look like a character that someone will want to play as. And Concord has zero main characters. All of them look really ugly, and they basically break a lot of principles of graphic design and character design in general. So, because of that, Concord is basically the poster boy of uglification of characters in games. So, I feel like Tim's response, it addresses the point of variety, but it completely misses the point in which some of these design choices are deliberately bad, whether it is making a character, less appealing, less feminine, a female character less feminine. We don't really see too often with male characters being less masculine, but it's definitely more about the women being less feminine, and also just deliberately having characters that break design rules without understanding the principles of design. You can always break principles of design, but when you break a principle of design, you should understand why. If you don't understand why you're breaking the principle and going against the grain, if you're just breaking it just for the sake of breaking it, then it's going to end up looking bad. Also, this point of I like variety, it also makes it as if all the choices are subjective and any of the characters can be subjectively good. That we can't determine if a character is good or not because just because I don't like something, I don't like a character design, then someone else will like it, which is incorrect when it comes to attraction and appeal. But when it comes to attraction, appeal, design choices, there are principles that will attract the eye more than others. This is why people go to design school so they can understand how to make their billboards, their characters, their whatever, all these things that people are designing. There are certain principles that will make them more attractive because these are objective things that will make them appeal to people's eyes more quickly. So when we say, oh, I just like variety, then it kind of just dismisses that all these design principles, and it just kind of says, well, you might not like it, but someone else might. I don't like this response because it's dismissing the fact that there are designs that are just objectively bad. When it comes to character design or attraction towards people or characters, there are certain things that people will be appealed to that are related to survival. Well, as humans, we are programmed to survive. So we're looking for other humans to help us survive. So we're looking for healthy people, fit people, young people, and all those things help make a person look more attractive. When they're younger, they are more attractive than they are when they're older. Same with someone when they're fit versus being, obese or overly skinny, like, or when they have a symmetrical face that shows health compared to having an asymmetrical face or some sort of deformation. Also, clear skin versus having some sort of, like a fungus or burns or scars, etc. So these things are going to be seen as more attractive because of the fact that we are appealed to for survival. The best way to explain how attractive a person is by comparing that person to the same person. For example, if you search on YouTube for homeless person makeover, you'll see lots of videos in which they grab a random homeless person, usually, really messy hair, dirt all over their face, nasty teeth, etc. They'll take them, they'll clean them, they'll give them a haircut, they'll dress them nice, and that person becomes objectively more attractive because they have cleaned them up, they've groomed them, they look healthier and more presentable. This is exactly why when you go into a job interview, you want to dress nice. You want to wear a good looking shirt. You want to make sure your hair looks good. Make sure you don't have any, neck beard, just clean face, you smell good, etc. All these things make you objectively more presentable. And when you do things like lose weight, that will objectively make you more appealing than if you gain weight and become morbidly obese. So let's take two men, for example. We have Henry Cavill and Jason Momoa. Both these men are objectively handsome. They're both strong men. They both have appeal to them. But whether you want to start arguing as to which one is more attractive or more appealing, that becomes an argument of preference because both of them have completely different styles. Henry Cavill having the more traditional clean cut style, while Jason Momoa going for the whole like long hair, wild bad boy style. So they have two different styles going on. If you like one more than the other, and at that case, it's preference. It's no longer about who is more attractive. It's about which one do you prefer? And that's where we're getting mixed up between appeal and what a person prefers, because those are two different things. You can prefer one thing over the other, but that doesn't mean the other is bad. As you can see with Henry Cavill and Jason Momoa, we still have variety despite both of them being objectively handsome men. We can look at video games that also display similar, both being attractive but yet having variety, such as in Final Fantasy VII, we have Tifa and Eris. And both of them are conventionally attractive women, but they both display different styles. You might prefer one over the other because of the hairstyle, the fashion, whatever. The point being is that we still have variety between these two characters, and they're still both objectively attractive looking characters. So the next point I want to cover is about Tim talking about idealized bodies. He mentions buff men and hourglass women. He implies that stepping away from these standard ideals, point of this is to add variety. And the thing is, so let's look at some examples that don't use the idealized traits, but still have cool looking characters. Street Fighter is a great example of variety of characters, and most of them are really cool. Just look at just about any of the major fighting games that have lasted over the decades, and those fighting games have great characters. But let's look at Street Fighter specifically. We have E Honda, he's an obese character, or I mean technically he's muscular, but he's a fat character. He's big. He doesn't have the idealized body type, but he's still a cool looking character. He still has appeal because, first of all, look at the color choice of his outfits. He has the blue outfit, the red face paint, just very good color choice of his character design. His pose is very strong. So E Honda represents strength despite being fat. Plus, he's a sumo who's super fast and he can fly around. So he's just really cool looking. That's why he works despite him being fat. He's still an appealing character and he adds variety. Let's also look at Rufus, who is he's in the lineup of Street Fighter 4. So Rufus is an ugly character. But let's talk about why he works. The reason why Rufus, he's visually unappealing. He has an obnoxious personality. He is deliberately designed to be obnoxious and unappealing. But the reason why Rufus works is because he is intentionally an outlier. He is not the rule. He is not the norm. He is the exception. And this is the difference between like Japanese or Eastern games versus a lot of these Western developed games that have adopted the uglification of characters. Th- these games, such as Concord, Dragon Age, the Veilguard, etc., ugly is the norm, especially for Concord. High Guard just came out and crashed, and the norm for High Guard is bland. If you look at Rufus for Street Fighter, yeah, he's an ugly character, but he is the exception. He is not the rule, and that's why he works. He adds variety because you have a range of characters. You have your characters that you see as the main characters, the coolest characters. You have characters that are, still pretty good. And then you have the weird characters, and those weird and ugly characters still work because they are the exception. And that is like I said, that's the main reason why it works. So I don't want to make this video too long. I'm just going to wrap it up here. Hopefully I explained well enough what the problem with the uglification of characters means, because I don't feel like there was a strong enough understanding of the problem. And also, hopefully I explained well enough the difference between appeal and preference, because those are just two different things. A lot of people like to mix up the two and say, things like, oh, it's all subjective. And, like I said before, if everything was subjective, why do people even go to design school? Why do people go to art school? Because it's not subjective. The preference is subjective, but what appeals to people, what catches eyes, which colors to use, color theory, all these things, placement, symmetry, asymmetry, all those things are objective. Anyways, my name is Mustafa. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button and subscribe. I don't do too many videos at the moment because I'm a little bit busy, but I try to talk about game and game industry related issues and give my perspective on it. And I also do weekly live streams, and you can catch me there. Anyways, take care. Thank you. Salam.